I'm going to be doing the second part of the factors that make or break a creative leader. So my section is the essential behaviors to lead for creativity. So basically everything that you do as a leader ultimately affects the quality of creativity of those who you're leading. It's very important to learn, adopt, and implement the behaviors of a successful leader. So the first one is to practice persistence. There's a saying that practice makes perfect, but for creative leading, you want to make progress. You don't want to be a perfectionist. You should never stop trying to perfect your craft, but don't just strive for perfection. This is really important if you're leading creative people. Research has shown that persistence turns creative potential into realization. So basically, it turns creative thoughts into creative actions. Persistence also separates mere managers from creative leaders. So just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader. It could just make you a manager. You need to learn to manage yourself first. In creative fields, chaos is going to happen and you never really know when. It's very important as a leader to help for you to remain calm and to help the people that are following you to remain calm. You need to embrace and live with decisions that you cannot control. So there's going to be clients, higher ups, and holding companies that will make decisions for you that you may not think are going to be the best and your team may not think are the best decisions, but ultimately that's who you have to listen to, and as a leader, you need to embrace these decisions and try to make the best of the situation for your team, thus guiding your team through the hardships of these poor decisions. Another really important thing is to be resilient, and that's the ability to cope with adversity, stress, and deprivation. This skill can be learned and enhanced, but it is very important when you're leading creatives. You have to build trust and earn it. Just because you are promoted or you have a title like manager doesn't mean you're a leader. It just makes you a manager. You have to earn your followers' trust. And you can do this with tangible and intangible factors. Some tangible factors are basically like your group seeing that you have talent and you have ability, but the intangible factors are your creative judgment, skillful critiques, your passion, your enthusiasm, encouraging your team, and humility. You need to be authentic, keep your team in the loop, value your role, and invite input on decision making. Giving that ability to your team to give their own input and stuff brings you in a better light for them, and they'll trust you more. You need to observe people and their behaviors and find the legitimate power within your organization. You can do this by people watching, essentially, and you can see how they interact with each other in your organization. See who's exerting the power. It's not always the boss. It could be another coworker of yours who has more influential power over the rest of your coworkers. A boss may have a positional power, but that doesn't necessarily make it personal power. So positional power is just saying that, oh, I'm the boss, I have power. That doesn't mean that they have personal power or informal power, which comes from referent and expert power, which are basically expert power is knowing your field very well and other people see that you know your field and like you're really good at what you do. But referent power is basically being able to like be a leader and stuff and other people seeing that and like coming to you for help. But you need power to lead, just regardless. Another thing you have to do is communicate with clarity. Communication is key with creatives. You need to give honest feedback. Be honest in general, give clear direction, and even just saying hello to your fellow team members will help them. And communication works in two ways, speaking and listening. Which brings me to my next point, that you need to listen more than you speak. The most neglected form of communication is, in fact, listening. There are two types of listening, information gathering and active listening. Information gathering is basically just listening and trying to retain information from people. If I was telling you my address, you would just be trying to remember my address. Whereas active listening makes people feel valued and helps them buy into you and which would make them eventually do almost anything for you within the company. So active listening is listening to what they're saying and then creating a response that tells them that you're listening, and using like your eyes and your body movements so they know that you're actively listening to them. You also need to cultivate your relationship skills. Relationships involve so many things like managing conflict, team building, supporting your team, and network building. You have to be genuine and professional, and it's not just about making friends. Relationship building at work is not about making friends, but it's also not about using people for your own benefit. You need to forge bonds and create mutually beneficial relationships so both you and the people following you are happy and working hard for a common goal. One of the biggest things that I found in this is resisting the urge to micromanage or do it yourself. Doing this just dismisses your creatives and minimizes the value of their professional work. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can create that Google Doc so fast doesn't mean that you should do it. You should delegate your work and make other people feel valued. You need to understand that being a leader means the best you can do sometimes is just giving your team support. This helps instill their confidence and makes them want to work harder for you. You also need to stay open and well ahead of the pack. This means being in front of new trends, applying your knowledge, and knowing and applying educated critical analysis. And great leaders are perpetual students. That means that you're always willing to learn new things so you can help the company benefit and help your group benefit. You need to start modeling, which means leading by example. This sets the tone for your organization, group, or team. Demonstrate the work ethic you expect from others. That means if you're coming in at 10 o'clock, but you expect everyone else to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's not setting the correct tone or demonstrating the work ethic that you expect. So if you expect people to be in at 8, you need to be in at 7:50. You create the codes and norms for your organization, so that's also going back on demonstrating the work ethic you expect from them. You can also accidentally do this, but do it in a wrong way. So if you expect people to stay late and work, but you go home, they're just gonna want to go home and complain that you're not staying, even though you're in charge. What I said earlier about perfection is basically that you need to not be a perfectionist. It drives people absolutely crazy. You need to know when to push your team and yourself, but you also need to know when to pull back the reins and make them stop, and you need to stop for the day. Nothing is perfect in life, and that includes work. So you need to observe, learn, and repeat daily. This is basically learning about your industry and business. Not just the business of your industry, but the business of business, which is marketing, economics, management, leadership, international relations. All of these things will help you in the long run. It'll also separate you from your peers and help you seem more informed about what you're speaking on, and might help you get another promotion in the future. So this one was kind of funny. It said, "Watch out for the creative asshole, it could be you." So this is basically talking about the people who come into new roles and being young without much experience. So this is basically the don'ts of being a creative leader. You don't want to claim credit for others' work. Acknowledge your group's efforts. This front and center. People will hate you for that. You don't enforce your authority by making people do dumb things. You earn it. Don't pick the best projects for yourself and give the quote worst to your followers, because they'll be really upset with that. Don't play favorites. People see that all the time. Don't play political games for your own benefit, and you need to forget the "it's all about me" mentality, because when you're working with a group, it's we, not me. Another important thing is to just simply be humble. Humility is one of the most important qualities in a leader, and it's essentially the freedom of pride or arrogance. If you're just super proud and you're so arrogant, people are going to look at you and they're just going to be so upset that you're their leader, essentially. It hurts their pride a little bit when they see people like that who just think they know it all and don't want to learn more. So you need to be humble and practice humility. Saber rattling Star Wars and doesn't end well. This essentially was talking about how if a company's creative process is kind of messed up, the people in charge, like CEOs and stuff, might want to clean house, hire someone new to turn the ship around. And if you're in that position, it's important to tread lightly because most of the people are going to hate you because they know what's coming, and that's a big sweep of their company, like firing old people and hiring new people. Your presence in that way can demotivate the group, which would just hurt the company even more. You need to remember to practice empathy and judgment. This is very important if you're in a situation like this, because you don't want to just seem like you know it all already, even though you haven't even been in that company. Another just simple, straightforward thing is to embrace change and become a chaos filter. Working in a creative field means that there is going to be absolute chaos and constant change. And some people don't work well with that, but you need to be able to make peace with that, understand that it's going to happen, even though you might not know when, and be able to alleviate the stress off of your team. Creativity also needs regular feeding. This means that your brain wants to be creative very often, but sometimes if it's stuck in a stale environment or just the same environment, it's not going to have like the best creative ideas that you might have had a few months ago. So you need to get out sometimes, and as a leader, you could have like a work party or something that, brings people to life a little more and takes a break from the constant like trying to be creative. A good analogy I thought for this was just all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy from The Shining. That's just what I thought about this. And in summary, there are a lot of things that you need to know to be a creative leader, and some of the most important things are being humble, understanding that creative people need time apart from being creative. Um, you need to be a model for everyone else, like practice what you preach. You need to learn as much as you can. You need to stay ahead of the pack, resist the urge to micromanage, and just basically become a good leader in those ways. Also, listening more than you speak is incredibly important, practicing persistence, and managing yourself first. All these things will help you to build trust within your team, and they'll believe in you, and everything will be great.